and welcome back to the channel. Thanks very much for joining me. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of the other videos, and hopefully they're touching a few points for you. I'm still pretty early into my roasting journey, and this is really about me trying to define a process to try and get consistent, good, drinkable coffee. None of this is going to be advice. It's really just talking through the experiences that I've had with the Gene Café CBR-301, which is my roaster. I've only had it for best part of a month and a little bit now. So I'm learning the machine. I'm learning how to roast. I'm learning about the beans, how they respond. I'm just learning the art, if I can be so say so. So for some strange reason, I'm naming my roasts 1 to whatever. So this is actually roast 11 and 12. They're both Brazilian naturals. Previously, I had roasted a couple of Brazilian naturals. I suppose those two roasts were filled with what I would class as crack anxiety. The Brazilian naturals appear to be different, maybe to other naturals, and in that they're very, very quiet when it comes to the crack. I couldn't actually hear it. I wasn't sure whether it was purely the noise of the Gene Café, which does have machine noise. The rotational aspect does have this little flapping door that makes a bit of noise, and I genuinely couldn't hear the crack. So that led to, at least with the Tapazio, I don't know the pronunciation is right there, but it led to basically a slightly longer roast than I would have expected. It ended up being quite a dark roast, and whilst it's absolutely drinkable, it's a little bit too far for me personally. So these two roasts were again the same beans. So one of them is the Tabasco, the other one's a yellow bourbon natural, both from the same farm, I believe. Literally same process. The roast was done intentionally the same, within parameters that I set, which were round. Understanding I was unlikely to hear the crack, although if I did hear the crack, I had a sort of a fail-safe mechanism there where I would give it a certain period of time for basically progressing the roast. But I stuck with largely a time-bound threshold. So I worked with smell. I worked with the visuals, how brown they got, and time. Obviously listening out for the crack, but I didn't hear the crack, so that was what it was. So as they driven by colour, aroma, and weight loss ultimately. This cupping, I suppose the key thing for me on this one is that I'm not a cube grader. I really won't be looking for flavour notes and things like that. It really is, for me personally, it's down to understanding whether or not my roasting decisions were good ones on the day, whether or not this coffee, with these two Brazilian naturals, whether or not they're drinkable, and whether or not I'd drink them as a day-to-day. To date, pretty much all the coffee has been drinkable, which is fantastic. We'll see with these two shortly. And so I'm using it really as a diagnostic, like a structural test over descriptors. So I'll be looking at body, balance, and finish. Pretty much is the three, I suppose, terms I'm setting for myself. The cupping recipe, again, similar to previous ones. It's going to be, I suppose, simple from most people's perspectives. It'll be 9 to 9.5 grams of beans ground, 150 milliliters of water. That'll give us a 1 to 16 or 1 to 17 type ratio. We'll obviously give it a 4-minute steep, and then we'll break the crust, and we'll have a smell of that as well. And again, I'll be using all of this as primarily as diagnostics. So without further ado, I'll get the cupping ready, and you'll be joining me in a couple of seconds. Okay, I suppose we've got the two roasts ground, 9.5 grams each. Looking at the colours of the beans themselves, very similar. Very similar smell. Very similar smell. From a obviously very coffee. I get a sort of almost a savoury smell off them as well, which is but it's very pleasant. No burnt notes or anything on those lines. And to be honest, this is sort of one of the harder parts for me, because the aroma is quite strong, and trying to differentiate like a particular subtle smell is actually reasonably difficult for me. So I'll do the business, and we'll basically pour the 150 millilitres of water in there. So that was just off the boil, and we'll set the timer for 4 minutes. Okay, we're quite close to 4 minutes. This is probably one of the hardest parts for me, and but I suppose that's okay. Wet aroma is like a fleeting and I suppose expectation heavy part of the process. If it tells me nothing, I'll move on. But I'm really just trying to get some. I suppose are there any badness in this at all? Well, that smells nice. I've got a good smell of coffee out of that. Obvious sounding, but it was like not overly strong, but just a nice sort of mellow smell. Interestingly, this one's actually got a slightly stronger smell to it, which was interesting. And again, I think I've said before, for me personally, it sort of smells a little bit oxo-y, if that's a good description. So it's more of a savoury smell, maybe. So give me a second, and I'll get rid of the crust, so we can dig a bit deeper into these into the tasting aspect. Not very good at this either, but look, it's all good fun. Okay. Okay. So, first one. Colour's nice. It's a sort of it's a medium-y colour. A slight bit of it's not a full-bodied. It is quite balanced. There's a tiny little bit of a taste of a little bit of acidity. That's actually nice. Move on to the other one. Similar colour. That's there's not too much body in there, but it's very balanced. Very little acidity on that. Yeah. So which is so basically the Tabasco. Again, pronunciation apologies. Definitely has a little bit more acidity. It's probably got a little bit more body than the yellow bourbon. It's got sort of a mild aftertaste. Yeah, but there's very little acidity in this one, and it's leaving my sort of palate quite clean. That's lovely. And this one is nice too. And to be honest, both coffees taste good to me. I find that I find that cupping personally, the flavour that I get is a little bit, I suppose, it's more diluted than I would normally expect or normally be drinking. So I suppose if I'm using the Oxo Rapid Brewer, I'm not so much a pour over fan. And espressos, of course, as well as obviously cappuccinos or milky type drinks. So they tend to be my favourites. So something with a bit more flavour. So these more subtle. The body's obviously slightly thinner, but that's natural. Comparing them to the previous Brazilian roast, these are definitely I think a little bit more balanced. Definitely more so than the Tabasco that have been over roasted. Sorry, cooked. So there's nothing scary in either of these cups. So I suppose from a process perspective, both those roasts I think are quite good. So I suppose this is what progress looks like. I've gone from a roast that I didn't understand. The Brazilian naturals have a very, very quiet first crack. I've evolved my process to be more colour and weight loss orientated, which has resulted in two good roasts here of Brazilian naturals that I believe I'll be drinking quite happily. So I'll feedback again in the future in relation to how these get used when I use other brewing methods. And if you go to oneroastatatime.com, I've got notes on there as well in relation to the different roasts and different parts of the process that I'm following. So I'd like to thank everyone for staying with me up to this point. Questions, queries, guidance, advice, any feedback you want to give me, I'm definitely open to it. I want to continue roasting more. I'm going to roast different beans. I'm going to compare and contrast beans. I'm going to do a little bit more as regards different types of roast on the Gene Café, because it has got some additional capabilities. So any questions on the roaster as well, please feel free to feedback to me. Ask me, I'll answer as soon as I can. And I suppose just remember, one roast at a time is what this is about. So it's a journey, and thanks for being with me.